Welcome back, everyone, to today's Aaj Ka Analysis. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer because today we are breaking down a truly historic 2026 World Cup clash. We're heading straight to Mexico City, right into the iconic Estadio Azteca, for a story that is all about dominant returns and some pretty incredible firsts.
Colombia 3, Uzbekistan 1. Man, if you were watching this live, you'd picture a literal sea of yellow just completely taking over the stadium. The Colombian fans were so incredibly loud, they essentially turned a Mexican stadium into a home game, selling it out for the 5th time this tournament. But look, the story here isn't just about a routine victory for Colombia. Tucked right inside that one for Uzbekistan is a monumental milestone for world football, and we're going to break down exactly how it happened.
All right, let's set the stage a bit and look at the huge contrast between these two sides. On one hand, you've got the heavyweight Colombians. They're finally returning to the World Cup stage after an 8-year-long absence they've been missing since 2018. And they brought a seriously star-studded attack under a new coach. You've got the veteran presence of James Rodriguez and, crucially, Diaz, who was basically handed a completely creative free role. On the flip side, Uzbekistan. This is the Central Asian Silk Road nation making their first ever World Cup appearance. To survive against all that Colombian firepower, their game plan relied heavily on a super compact 5-4-1 defensive block, really just looking to players like Abbosbek Fayzullaev to create some sparks on the counterattack.
Section 1. The Azteca Showdown.
So let's step out onto the pitch and see how that first half actually played out. Colombia immediately established dominance. They hoarded possession, while Uzbekistan just settled deep into that defensive shell we just talked about. Honestly, for almost an entire half, it was just a grueling battle of attrition. James Rodriguez tried his luck early on from distance, but it was a bit too central. Diaz was constantly making these threatening runs, even drawing some pretty cynical fouls. But finally, right at the 40th minute, the breakthrough arrived. And this perfectly illustrates the power of top-tier creativity. Diaz, operating in that free role, delivered this sublime, perfectly weighted lofted pass right into the box. Right back Daniel Munoz timed his run absolutely perfectly, met the ball and executed a really composed poking finish past the goalkeeper. The Azteca absolutely erupted. 1-0 to Colombia from a beautifully crafted team goal.
Now, what's really interesting about this number 1 is the sheer emotional weight it carries. Because heading into the second half, the vibe of the game completely flipped. What happened next wasn't just a goal to try things up, it was literally the realization of an entire nation's dream.
Section 2. An historic equalizer. Second half kicks off and Uzbekistan basically realizes, you know what, we have to risk it all. So they broke out of that tight defensive shell and managed to create a moment of pure magic that is going to go down in their country's history forever. Exactly on the 60-minute mark it happened. Ali Jassim executed this remarkably clever reverse pass right down the left side. The ball found its way into the danger zone, and thanks to a surprising and frankly massive fumble by the Colombian goalkeeper Camilo Vargas, Abbosbek Fayzullaev was right there to poke it in for a tap-in equalizer. This wasn't just a goal, guys. This was Uzbekistan's first ever World Cup goal. That small but incredibly passionate pocket of Uzbek fans in the Azteca just went into an absolute emotional frenzy. Fayzullaev's celebration was so raw and touching. A debuting nation had officially announced themselves on the biggest stage in the world. Section 3. Colombia Strikes Back.
Now, as beautiful and emotional as that peak was, we have to remember, this is the World Cup, and heavyweight teams are immensely dangerous when provoked. Colombia's response was swift and completely merciless. Just 5 minutes later, literally 5 minutes, in the 65th minute, Diaz decided to just completely take over the match. Carrying the ball down the right side, he elegantly beat 2 defenders and unleashed this powerful strike. And here's where the goalkeeper struggles really continued, for both sides. Just as Colombia's keeper had fumbled earlier, Uzbekistan's goalkeeper Ukur Yusupov failed to handle the shot. The ball slipped right through his hands and into the back of the net. Diaz had totally stamped his authority on the game with an assist and a goal, proving exactly why he is such a feared attacker.
Looking at the timeline really captures the wild tension and rapid release of this match. You've got that long, grinding build-up to the 40th minute for Munoz's opener. Then, boom, a sudden explosion of action. Fayzullaev's historic equalizer at 60 minutes, immediately countered by Diaz at 65. From there, the match stayed balancing on a knife's edge until deep into stoppage time. Right around the 90-plus minute mark, substitute Jaminton Campaz, who had actually come on for James Rodriguez, met a cross from Juan Hernandez with a perfectly timed header to definitively seal that 3-1 victory for Colombia. Section 4. Match Analysis and Standings. What a phenomenal sequence of events, right? So let's see how all those incredible emotional moments translate into our core tactical takeaways. First up, Luis Diaz was simply unstoppable. With a goal and an assist, the Uzbek defense had absolutely no answer for the guy. Second, the veteran presence of James Rodriguez. Even without getting on the score sheet, his creativity, his set-piece delivery, and his overall control really dictated the tempo. Third, obviously, Uzbekistan's historic peak. Seeing a debutant nation score their first-ever goal is exactly what makes this tournament so incredibly special. Fourth, we've got to talk about those dual goalkeeper blunders. Vargas's fumble and Yusupov's slip really kept this match chaotic and totally unpredictable. Fifth, that Azteca atmosphere was genuinely world-class. It was completely transformed into a vibrant Colombian home ground. And finally, this performance clearly establishes Colombia as the undeniable favorites in Group K.
Zooming out to the big picture, the Group K table becomes crystal clear. Colombia is sitting securely at the very top with 3 points. Right behind them, Portugal and DR Congo are tied up with 1 point each, while Uzbekistan is currently sitting at the bottom with 0. But hey, despite the loss, Uzbekistan show they can absolutely score and compete. Still, Colombia is definitely in the driver's seat to qualify.
Before we wrap up today's Explainer, I really want to turn it over to you. We've seen this incredible pattern this tournament, with debutant nations making their mark. Out of all of them, Curaçao, Qatar, Jordan, Congo, or today's historic strike from Uzbekistan, whose first-ever World Cup goal moved you the most? Take a second to think about that, because honestly, the raw emotion of these firsts is exactly why we love this sport so much. Thanks for hanging out with me for this breakdown, and keep that curiosity alive until our next Explainer.